Welcome to the No to Beijing 2022 podcast. Another avenue to express our opposition to the imagined exoneration of the Chinese Communist Party's crimes against humanity is to communicate with our elected officials. The awarding of a prestigious international event, in effect, legitimizes and exonerates the genocide and human suffering perpetrated by Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party. In the United States, our elected officials respond to their constituents' correspondence. In the age of bots, I believe handwritten letters indicate a greater amount of investment in the issues discussed. Whether or not our letters help shape future positive changes is up to debate. On the issue of whether our elected officials are willing to criticize the Chinese Communist Party-controlled government of the People's Republic of China, there is no unanimous willingness to hold Xi Jinping and his thugs accountable for their crimes against humanity. While not pointing fingers, Chinese Communist Party spies have infiltrated congressional staffs, and these are the only ones we have discovered. In a speech by then Secretary Pompeo in 2020 to our nation's governors, the Chinese Communist Party is working our elected officials down to the local level.
Last year, a Chinese government-backed think tank in Beijing produced a report that assessed all 50 of America's governors on their attitudes towards China. They labeled each of you friendly, hardline, or ambiguous. I'll let you decide where you think you belong. Someone in China already has. Many of you indeed in that report are referenced by name. So here's the lesson. The lesson is that competition with China is not just a federal issue. It's why I wanted to be here today, Governor Hogan. It's happening in your states with consequences for our foreign policy, for the citizens that reside in your states, and indeed for each of you. And in fact, whether you're viewed by the CCP as friendly or hardline, know that it's working you. Know that it's working the team around you. Competition with China is happening inside of your state, and it affects our capacity to perform America's vital national security functions. Think about that. You add a diplomat from China assigned here to the United States, a representative of the Chinese Communist Party in New York City, sending an official letter urging that an American elected official shouldn't exercise his right to freedom of speech. Let that sink in for just a minute. And this isn't a one-off event. It's happening all across the country. Chinese consulates in New York, in Illinois, in Texas, and 2 in California, bound by the diplomatic responsibilities and rights of the Vienna Convention, are very politically active at the state level, as is the embassy right here in Washington, D.C. Maybe some of you have heard about the time when the Chinese consulate paid the UC San Diego students to protest the Dalai Lama. Or last August, when a former governor, Phil Bryant of Mississippi, received a letter from a diplomat in the council's office in Houston threatening to cancel a Chinese investment if the governor chose to travel to Taiwan. Phil went anyway. Last year, a high school in Chicago disinvited a Taiwanese representative to serve on a climate panel after Chinese pressure. You know, it's one thing to pressure the Secretary of State of the United States of America. It seems quite something else to go after a high school principal. It shows depth. It shows systematization. It shows intent. Chinese Communist Party officials, too, are cultivating relationships with county school board members and local politicians, often through what are known as sister cities programs.
I encourage you to write letters to your elected officials and ask them where they stand on the issues. For instance, you could ask the following. Do you believe the leaders of the Chinese Communist Party are culpable for the Uyghur genocide? What measures do you propose enacting to hold Chinese Communist Party leaders accountable to end the crimes against humanity? What measures do you propose enacting to hold the Chinese Communist Party leaders accountable for the cultural genocide of Tibetans and Mongols? Will you divest your interest in all Chinese businesses controlled by the People's Republic of China government? Please list all your contacts with Chinese government officials or United Front organizations 6 months prior to seeking public office to the present. These are just a few examples. Keep sending letters until you get a response, and if the answer is vague, ask for clarification. If it is one of the champions that answers your questions to your satisfaction, send them a thank you note. Share your letters on social media and the responses, but black out the personal information. These people are public servants and work for we the people, and someone who places human suffering as a low priority will never receive my vote or support. If you don't get the answers you seek, write letters to opposing candidates. Ask them the tough questions and share their responses on social media. The Chinese Communist-controlled government spends millions on propaganda and influence peddling in our country, and we have a voice they cannot stop. They can silence opposing views in their country, but they can't silence your voice. Let's hold them accountable. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not asking for money. Please support the human rights groups that uphold your values if donations are the only way you can help. Lastly, I wanted to mention the mailing list has a two-part registration process. Please look in your junk folder to find and reply to the confirmation email after you register. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.